Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you learn a great deal on this side of the House, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but I tell you, you sure have. Do you guys want to take that argument outside?
It has a flaw.
Got me debating.
So, Mr. Speaker, anyhow, I'm pleased to stand up and debate Bill 26, the Mines and Mineral Coalbed Methane Amendment Act. There's no question here that when you become a member of the opposition, you go through a steep learning curve, and that steep learning curve takes you from, having, two or three things that you're interested in, and all of a sudden you're learning about legislation. And I always have to say, when I was on the side of the government house, admired the opposition and wondered how the heck they were able to stand up and debate about every piece of legislation, and for that matter, some of them for 20 minutes at a time with a bill in their hand. And, well, guess what? We've got the Wild Rose Caucus. We've got a limited budget. It's like I said to the leader, it's like going from the castle to the outhouse and hoping you have some toilet paper with you, because that's exactly what we have. We have two researchers. We've got, I forget how many ministries over on the government side, I think 23, that we have to try and keep up on. And so it's been an interesting challenge. I guess the comments that I want to make on the Bill 26 is, and I find it interesting, and I'm looking forward to the member from West Yellowhead standing up and debating this piece of legislation, because it's the coal companies in his area that, in their word, feel that they're getting screwed, and they feel that there's no recollection of their claim to the byproduct of their coal. Again, and it emphasizes, I think, what my two colleagues is the lack of the industry consultation. In fact, a lot of them were totally blindsided by the announcement on October 27th. So this harkens me back to the times when I was on the government side and the royalty framework. And I don't have to remind anybody in this legislature about the royalty framework, and I see the minister former Minister of Energy watching and listening to what I have to say. And at that period of time, when we brought the royalty framework forward, we heard a lot of the oil and gas companies talking about their lack of consultation. And we saw what the lack of consultation did on the royalty framework with, I think we've got, what, seven changes we've gone through so far? I've lost track of exactly how many changes. So the government is rushing this legislation on this bill. I think the in-situ gasification from coal is not clarified, and I think my colleague from Airdrie Chestermere, when he was questioned from my colleague from Glenmore, asked him that. The natural gas may belong to a gas tincture. However, the value added from the coal gasification is not recognized, and without clarification of this value-added process and rushing this bill through legislations, we just feel that Albertans will be losing a great opportunity similar to the oil sands, and we will be caught in litigation seeking assets which we know must be defined. So our Premier, or the Premier, has said that the clean coal has a big role in Alberta's energy future. He's made that one of his priorities, and I'm just very, very concerned about what we're hearing from Albertans and what we're hearing from those in the coal bed about how they feel that there's been no consultation. They felt blindsided. They felt the lack of industry consultation. And yet another case of ramming through legislation, and they feel that 2 weeks is not enough for legislatures, us as MLAs, to be able to make a fair analysis of what's happening. And so I'm going to be, this is second reading, I'm going to be listening to what some of the colleagues from the government have to say on this particular piece of legislation. I'll be particularly interested in those colleagues that have some of the coal companies' within their constituencies, because I think that'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. I can't imagine that the coal companies coming to us and explaining their displeasure and then going to the government member, if the company is in there, and saying how much they like the legislation. And I always find it fascinating when there's things going on that the MLA supposedly representing the constituents in their riding not speaking up, that sends a very, very bad message to me. But I guess not surprising when we haven't heard any of the government MLAs talk about the crisis that we're in health care. So with those remarks, I'm going to sit down. I'll look forward to, again, speaking in committee. I imagine that we'll be continuing to meet with the coal companies that have expressed their displeasure on this piece of legislation, and as they're taking the time to educate us through the process, there's nothing like going back to school and getting Energy 101. Now we're going into Coal 101 and all of those others. So, Mr. Speaker, I will sit down on those remarks, and I look forward to hearing what the government has to say during the committee process.